What's going on, guys? I'm here. I'm here. Today, I was going to put on this pink hoodie and talk about toxic masculinity, but we're still going to talk about it. I'm just not going to wear pink. I'm just not wearing that. No way. This is Shout Out Canvas by Canvas, the hated, loved, classic black hoodie. If anyone wants, the link will be in the description below. Shout out to Tim and the culture, the gang, the team, the squad, whatever. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Let's just talk about what I want to talk about. So today, as I said, I want to talk. This is probably going to be the last opinion corner video. I was expecting to put some stuff up in the background, but if the more eagle-eyed guys will notice that my hair hasn't grown at all in any of the last 4 videos because they were literally all recorded within like 3 or 4 days. And the reason why, like, I don't actually think there is much. Like I mentioned in one of the previous videos, that the whole point is to talk about things that are a bit more, not necessarily controversial, but a bit more open for discussion. And all the things that I kind of had noted down that I thought would be cool topics, just aren't cool topics to talk about. Like, there's nothing. I haven't really got any hot takes on like friendship. I haven't got any hot takes on religion. I haven't got any hot takes on anything else really. This is like my final thing that I think is going to be interesting. Maybe this will come back, probably in the distant future, or not in the foreseeable future at least, not the distant future, but a time gap there. But yeah, this is going to be probably the last one, and hopefully if there is another one, there is going to be something in the back to make things more interesting. But yeah, you're probably wondering, like, what is this setup today? Like, I don't know how to show masculinity in a setup at all. I've got some links cans here, classic manly spray. I've got a bunch of books. Private Peaceful is a very cool book about like bravery and some stuff during the war, which I think is quite. It's actually more about like cowardice, and this kid who's like too scared to save his dad ends up like. And it doesn't matter. I'm not going to spoil it. It's a cool book. That's only like the first couple of pages. I haven't actually spoiled anything by saying that, but yeah, this is what I came up with. And yeah, let's actually talk about what I want to talk about. So, toxic masculinity. As always, there's no script here. There's no subject, or there's subject matter, and that's it. I don't know what I'm going to say. Anything I do say, though, I am saying for me. This is Jordan speaking for Jordan. I say this every time. This isn't me. I'm not talking for Bristol, for black guys, or for any guys. I'm talking just for me, just for Jordan. And yeah, let's get it. So I think the best place to start with toxic, because I think this video is going to be a bit more reflective than the other ones, and I feel like I'm going to end up saying something that I'm gonna have to go back to and listen to in the future and be like, I haven't changed at all. But I think I want to start by reflecting more so on like my earlier, my younger years and things that I used to do that I thought were fun. I still kind of do some of these things, but it's like things that I've recognized now as debatably toxic attributes. Like, for example, being like the class clown. This whole, I mean, it's cool being funny. There's nothing wrong with joking around. But I guess my approach was always like a punching down kind of method. If you don't really know what punching down means, it's kind of like abusing your, not necessarily a privilege per se, but it's like if you're on upper ground. Like maybe like me, for example, I was good at maths. Maybe someone got a maths question wrong that I knew the answer to, so I'd like attack them like, oh, you're an idiot. Like that's punching down because they can't respond to that because you're in a position of power over them. Another example might be. I've never done this, but like, let's say someone's like disabled or something, or like, they have difficulties walking or talking, and you kind of attack them or like, bully them because of that. That's obviously again another example of punching down because they can't defend themselves. I never attack someone like that. I can honestly say, and people might disagree with me, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can admit to, like I've never outwardly explicitly done something with malicious intent. I accept that I'm an idiot. I accept that I've done dumb things in the past, but I've never ever done something intentionally to be malicious to hurt someone. Again, people will probably disagree with me on that. That's fine. If I have hurt anyone out there, I'm sorry for my actions. I can't take back what I've done. I'm not expecting you to forgive me for it, but I recognize that there are some things I've done that have been dumb, and I recognize that sometimes the dumb things that I do are malicious. They are hurtful, and I think this is why I don't call myself toxic. For a long time, well, not a long time, for like a brief period when I was kind of reflecting, I was like, damn, I'm so bad. But at the same time, it's like you can have toxic traits, or you can make mistakes and not be a toxic person. Like I would never say I'm a toxic guy, but I do think I do a lot of mad stuff that I'm working on. I guess is the point. But punching down humour is an example of something that I did when I was growing up. That might be that's not literally toxic, but it's a toxic trait if you're always abusing your power, you're abusing your privilege over someone for a laugh, for a joke. Another thing, for example, might be like I was never misogynistic. I'll never say that, but I never listened to like female music artists, or I never like interacted with women. I never really cared much for like female characters in TV shows, and that's not even for me being, again, that's not even like a misogynistic thing. It's not like I never hated or had a problem with women, but I never saw the intrinsic value at the time for some of these things. Like, I'd never understood what Beyonce was talking about in half her songs, so I'm not going to sit down and listen to you talking about girl problems, isn't it? I can't relate, so I'm not going to listen to that. I never, to be fair, this isn't even a me problem. I feel this is a Hollywood or like a media problem, where women in media, I'm talking about like films, not like in the news or anything. I'm not real women, but like characters are always made to be, what's that thing called? Is that the Bechdel test or something, where it's like two or more women, named women, talking to each other about something other than a man, and like so many films fail the Bechdel test. I think it's called the Bechdel test, but that goes to show there are so many films and shows out there where it's literally like it's a bunch of unnamed women, don't really do much. Their whole purpose is to drive the plot. All they do is like talk about men or their relationship with men, and it's very bad, and it's very, very bad. It's like something that really annoyed me about Wonder Woman, and obviously I'm not a woman, I don't relate to it the same way as girls who, it's obviously nice to see a female protagonist portrayed in a powerful way, but that's always been like very boring. It's not very funny. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen the latest one yet. Is it 1874 or something? I haven't seen the latest one yet. I think it's 1974. But when you watch the first one, it's like the real hero to me is Captain Kirk. It's Captain Kirk, the guy from Star Trek. I can't remember his actual name in the film, but like he was the hero to me. And that's not even a manly thing. It's not like because I just recognize that he's a man and I think he's heroic because of who he is. But it's like he literally killed him. Like, he sacrificed himself in the end to save the day. The whole time she's going through this like paradigm shift, he's kind of like helping her out. It's like, look, just stop being dumb. He's kind of controlling the plot as far as I'm concerned, and she only really this is a very poor take. Like, she actually recognizes her power because she sees like the humanity in people. I'm not going to like go on in depth. I'm not a movie review channel, although I do love movies. But it very much seemed to me, at least in first glance, on face value, that it's like he sacrificed himself. She's lost the person she first fell in love with, and now suddenly it's like she's has all this power because of that. Like, that's the heroics, and I've always kind of had a strange relationship with women because of that. I've always viewed that as it's not like everyone in the world is the same as a character, but this whole idea of like misrepresentation or underrepresentation in general, it obviously has an impact on the way people see things. It's not me just saying that to defend myself. That's an actual thing. And I recognise that growing up, I always had that similar mentality. Like, I'd always kind of see girls as like, what's the word for it? Like side characters, like just not necessarily important, not necessarily valuable. And not in a toxic way. It's not like, oh, you have no value to me. It's not what I'm saying. But it's like, I look at the class and like the smartest person was a guy. The people, my one of my best friends, Michael, got into Cambridge. Of course, Michael Guy. All of the funny class clown kind of characters, basically all men. All the people that I spoke to the most are basically all men. And that's not because I had a problem with the women. It's like literally, well, at least in my opinion, again, opinion corner, if you have your own hot takes, take that to some corner down below in the comments. But I was always like, there's just no character amongst the women in my life. Maybe that stems from my family, my background. Maybe that stems from, again, it's my misperception based on what I saw the most shown in the media. But yeah, when I was growing up, I just never really understood that. I always kind of just thought like the guys were the heroes, and that, to be fair, again, that literally comes from movies. And even like when you go shopping for clothes, I remember working in New Look. You look at like the boys. Well, to be fair, we never had a boys' corner. When you go to like Topshop or other shops that sell kids' clothes, the boys section is like, oh, born to be a hero. Got a dragon on it or a knight, and it's like all these like vibes, like a football on it. And you go to the girls' corner for like unicorns and princess, and it's very explicit. The blue and the pink corners of the room is very explicit. I was even fed up with my mum when my baby sister was born. Mum was like, yeah, she's going to be a girl, so I'm going to buy a pink. I'm like, I didn't say anything at the time. I was young, but in my head I'm like, are you mad? Like, we don't do that. It's not defined. It's not defined thing that don't need to be defined. It's not like, oh, pink, therefore girls can't. Maybe I should have put a pink hoodie on, but it's like pink, therefore girl, blue, therefore boy. That's stupid. It's so stupid. And again, it's something that I had to deal with growing up. Lads, this is maturity, yeah? It's maturity. I've grown since my camera died and recharged. I was contemplating wearing this yellow one instead, but I've already worn the bruised banana Arsenal kit in a couple of videos, so that will have to wait. I'm not that mature yet. I'm still a bit, I still have a few toxic traits and attributes that I've got to work on. But today we wear pink, ladies and gentlemen. Today we wear pink. But as I was saying, like, actually, you know what? I'm not even going to go back to that point. I'm just going to start on a new train of thought. But yeah, like, I think it's interesting. I think I put out a video in the past called "If They Were Gay." Is it gay? It's called "Is It Gay?" If they were gay, it's called "Is It Gay?" Well, I literally, it's interesting actually now the links bottle here. It's like the links put on advert years ago. I think it might have been 2012 or something. Years ago, which I thought was quite powerful, quite interesting. Where they just had a bunch of guys and they typed into Google. Well, you didn't know that until the end, but you had these guys interacting with other guys, and they were like, "Oh, is it okay to wear pink? Is it okay to cry? Is it okay to not wear deodorant? All these random questions." And at the end, they kind of like showed the joint to these guys over like a course couple of seconds. It's an advert. At the end, they like went into Google and it's like they typed in "Is it okay?" and they showed all the top ranking searches, and they were like, these are actual thoughts that people are, think people are actually searching these things. Is it okay to wear pink? Blah blah blah. Obviously, it is. I hope. It'd be funny if I got cancelled for this video. So, Jordan's wearing pink. Cancel him. but yeah, that's quite an interesting video. Quite an interesting take, and I think that was not literally the turning point, but it was one of the things that happened that I recognized. That I continue to reflect on the way I treated not necessarily other people, but my own personal feelings and thoughts. For example, obviously, I to be fair, I cried a bit growing up. I'm not gonna front, but I still have that same mentality. Which and it's actually interesting. It's not even explicitly a male thing that boys don't cry, but it was like if you cried, it's you're a wuss, you're a sissy, you're acting like a girl, you're this. And it's like kind of implying that you have to be a girl to cry. Insinuating that boys shouldn't cry because if you do, you're a girl. And all this nonsense, which is actually, I think that's actually the difference. That's something that I recognise more so from the idea, the ideas of what toxic masculinity is. It's not necessarily about the way we treat each other as much as it's the way. Well, this is just my take. This is my opinion corner, but I don't recognise it as much in me as much as I recognise the way I treat other people based on it, which again is my own personal revelation, I guess. Where it's like, I might look at a guy I might look at a girl, for example, who's a strong character, and I'm like, what, that's very masculine of you. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And I think that helps reinforce this mentality that girls, I mentioned before, like in the media, kind of reinforces that they're not as intrinsically powerful or valuable as men, because you have this whole idea where men don't do certain things. Men don't cry. Men don't hurt. Men are stronger, faster, better. You look at all the smart people in shows, the scientists. Men are the smart ones. Men are the ones that get things done, and that's it. And what that intrinsically means, when you reverse engineer that, is that what you're basically saying is that women don't do that. You're not saying that everyone should do this and men can do it as well. It's like men do that. This is the man thing to do. And then if you're not a man, you don't do that. And that fundamentally didn't affect the way I treated myself. I never thought like, oh no, I can't cry. I never thought, oh no, I can't express myself. To be fair, I actually do need to work on my expression. I feel like I am quite emotionally closed off sometimes. Well, actually, that's not especially true. I'll come back to that in a second. But like what I was getting at before is that I started to look at women and be like, you can't do those things, and that's the problem. That's the problem that I recognized. I was talking to someone the other day about how when I was growing up, and even until recently, whenever I saw a powerful woman or a woman that I respected, that I thought was cool, that was doing great things, I would always be like, wow, I can't wait to marry someone like that. I can't wait to be with a girl like that. Well, that's the complete wrong mindset. It's like, I'm not looking at a successful guy like, oh yeah, I can't wait to be with someone like that. It's like, you respect a guy on a manly level, quote unquote manly level, where it's like you just see, you recognize the authority between two figures. Whereas with a woman, it's like, I've never really appreciated an authoritative stance of a woman. It's always been like, yeah, I'll marry you one day. From a position of power, from that punching down thing, like tying it all back together. And that's toxic. It's bad. I shouldn't be thinking like that. Even the way I talk to people, I've noticed sometimes, like, to be fair to me, again, I've never done it explicitly to be malicious or to be, toxic. But it's like if I'm talking to a guy that I've just met, I'm kind of more stern, I guess. So I'm just upfront. I'm saying what I've got to say. But when I'm talking to a girl, I'm always trying to be more playful, more funny, more interesting, and that. actually more so stems from, like, I guess, insecurity more so than toxicity. And you can argue the two are kind of interweaved between each other. Like, you're projecting your insecurity on someone else. That's where the toxicity comes from. But it's like, I've talked to girls in the past, and obviously it's not an uncommon thing to be aired or left on red. Yeah, I'm still hurt. But it's like, I'm always, because of that background, because of that, my it's not, to be fair, it's not even a common thing. I don't like message girls that frequently, to be like aired frequently. It's not the point. But it's like, I'm always trying to do. I guess you could say do too much. I'm trying to be extra funny. If I'm talking to a guy, it's like, oh, what's your favorite food? If I'm talking to a girl, it's like, oh, if I'm trying to impress you, what do I cook? And it's that fundamental difference that is, again, I've recognized that is very, very bad. It's very bad. It's a toxic trait that I'm working on. And I don't know. I'm trying to think, how can I express this in more of a discussive, conversational standpoint? Hence the whole point of the Opinion Corner series. But it's like, I guess it's like, what do other people think? What do we other people perceive toxicity to be, and how do we recognize that in ourselves or in others? I know one of my friends that completely doesn't even believe in it. It's like, stronger guys historically have been stronger, have not cried, etc., etc. And like, I know guys who genuinely think there's nothing wrong with that mentality, and I get it, I understand that. To some degree, being emotionally vulnerable is, you're vulnerable, it's a bad thing. But even still, I kind of see vulnerability a bit differently now. Like, being vulnerable doesn't literally mean, well, I mean, it does literally mean being vulnerable. It's like, you're kind of weaponizing someone else, but you're trusting them to not use that weapon to harm you. It's like, I might tell someone something bad, or something I'm emotionally uncertain about, with the expectation that they're going to use that information to help me heal, versus like, condemn me and like have a go at me for it or attack me for it. That's what being vulnerable means, I guess. It's like, you're kind of handing someone the weapon and saying like, I've given you the gun, just don't shoot me. Shoot the demon behind me. That's kind of where, I guess, vulnerability comes from. And that's my take, at least. And it, like, there's a difference between being vulnerable and just not being able to be hurt. And then even that, there's a difference between not being able to be hurt and then being emotionally locked off. That's why I think I have difficulty articulating myself sometimes, because I don't think I'm closed off, but I do think I'm somewhat immune, or at least I've got a higher tolerance for pain. Like, I don't get hurt very frequently, and I think a lot of that stems from, again, like, I'm gonna have to, I think, talk to my family in this video. I didn't really want to, but I'm just, it makes sense to do so. And it's like, growing up, obviously, when you're growing up in a the basically toxic environment, especially for me, at least, I'm talking on my behalf, is my corner. But when when I was growing up, I didn't have a great relationship with my parents. I still don't, to be fair. But if I'm going through smack with my own family, the people that are supposed to, unconditional love, are supposed to love you irrespective of what you do. If I'm not even feeling loved in my own home, I don't care what Michelle says down the street about me. I don't care what you lot say. I don't expect anyone outside of my family to treat me with respect. And even if I did, kind of want them to, I understand that they have no idea who I am. They have no understanding of the context of the prior activity that led me to be to that point in my life, in front of them. So then it's up to me. If they can't automatically recognize, my background or my status or whatever, then it's up to me to show them that. And if I can't communicate my skill set or whatever to them, then that's on me for not being able to communicate effectively, not on them for not believing in me or for not rating me very highly. That's why I don't care about like job interviews. If I don't get a job, that's on me. It's like, I should have been better. Like, I don't expect any interviewer, any employee, employer. I don't expect any YouTuber that I'm trying to collab with to just be like, oh, you're Jordan. Oh, Jordan. Oh, yeah, I want to work with you. You're sick. Like, obviously, I know I'm sick, but you don't know that. So it's on me to show you that. And that's why I don't really care as much. And I'm a lot more. I don't have that entitlement. I don't have that sense of disapproval from other people. So I don't really get hurt. I don't think I can be vulnerable because there's nothing you can say to bother me. Since my parents don't care, like, I don't expect you to care. But it's a thing where, again, understanding that difference between like being invulnerable, is that a word? Invulnerable? I mean, all words are technically just constructs to help us communicate effectively. So technically, if you know what I mean when I say invulnerable, that it's the word now, right? It's a word now, isn't it? But it's the difference. I guess the difference again between being invulnerable and then being emotionally closed off, and then again being emotionally closed off versus being like whatever I said before, toxic male or whatever. and then understanding the difference between that, and then recognizing that again, not just in ourselves but in other people and how we treat others based on that. I actually think fundamentally that's the problem. The problem isn't the toxicity we have in us; it's like the way we treat others because of that. Because you can have your problems, your differences, or your emotional battles, or whatever, inside of you, but there's no need to project down to others. There's no need to attack others because of that, and that's when it becomes toxic, I guess. That masculinity is a thing that exists, and it becomes toxic when you project that in a negative way to hurt others, to I don't know. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I think that's kind of the point of the discussion, at least thus far in the video. I think briefly, spinning back round and talking about my family a bit further, I kind of touched on, having a debatably toxic family environment, but like to touch on that a bit more, it's like, I look at some of my family members, and none of them, especially, well, to me at least, none of them resemble anything of a highly respectable, highly, dominant figure. Like, I'm kind of looking around, and it's like, like, kind of everyone's kind of average. There's no one especially that I look up to. I don't have any role models in my own house. I don't really have any role models outside either. The only person I trust is me. The only constant in my life is the fact that I'm living it. And that makes it difficult because it's like there's no one to learn from. I'm kind of just, I do something, and then I see it's all about pattern recognition. Like, someone might react to something that I do, and I'm like, you reacted in a negative way, so that implies that what I did is wrong. And then I think about that and I reflect on that and I learn from it. But I think that's difficult, again, like going back to the main topic of toxic masculinity. It's difficult when, if I fundamentally from a young age kind of disregarded the opinions and stuff of women because I thought less of them, in some sort of way. I never actually felt less of women, even though I just said I did, but I never actually thought that way. It's kind of just the way it was perceived to me. Like, I understood it was wrong in some part of my brain, but somewhere else it was like I just perceived it differently. So if I'm always automatically kind of like taking what they say with a grain of salt, I guess, or maybe it's like I give it less value internally, that means that, going back to the pattern mechanism I just said, like if everything I say, being a class clown, if I'm punching down and all my guy friends are laughing, ha ha, funny Jordan, yeah, oh, you tell him, man, and then all the girls are looking at me in discontent and they feel uncomfortable, it's kind of like that pattern that I'm recognizing is that, they find it funny and they matter more, so that's what I'm going with. Versus, like, even though you don't find it funny, the overall pattern is positive, so I'm going to assume it's right. And that basically sums up my whole school experience. Like, from year 7 to year 11, I was a complete idiot. And again, I continue to maintain that belief that nothing I did was intrinsically done to be malicious. I always thought things were funny, and I always gave the benefit of the doubt based on the fact that more people were laughing than they were being upset. But again, that's intrinsically that's a toxic trait, I guess, that I needed to work on. I have worked on to some degree. It's difficult when you don't see anyone anymore because you're inside. But yeah, that's a thing. I guess there are loads more traits. Toxic traits that are shown in men. Obviously, like, men not crying, the whole boys don't cry mentality is kind of dumb. The whole, like, wearing a mask thing, you can't be emotionally vulnerable thing is kind of dumb. Again, I touched on that as well. Like, I've never really felt vulnerable, so I've never really hid how I felt. Actually, to go a bit deeper on that, that's played against me more often than not, because people always say, oh, you shouldn't tell lies, blah blah blah. And then me myself being someone who's I'm not easily hurt, so I'm quite easy to talk to, I feel like, but that has led me to say things that just because I'm okay with saying something, or I'm okay with hearing negative things about me, doesn't mean that other people are the same. Like, if someone called me fat, I'm not fat. If someone said I got a dead trim, yeah, like, okay, I know. Like, barbershops are closed, I get it. But if I go to someone else now and say, oh, you got a dead trim, something that could be a big deal, that can really hurt the way they feel. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean. Like, I see things differently, and that's led me to say and do things that are, to me it was funny, and I'm sorry for hurting people again. But it's like, you make those mistakes because I assume everyone was like me, and that's obviously not the case. And I think that comes from the fact that men, the whole idea of like wearing a mask, you don't actually realize, again, the pattern recognition that I mentioned, you don't actually realise that this guy is hurt by what you say. Because I might say, oh, you got a dead trim. They might laugh, like, haha, yeah, good one, Jordan. But deep down, that hurts them. And that, again, reinforces that joke. It's like, okay, cool. I said it. I'm okay that I said it. You're okay that I said it. The class is laughing. Therefore, it's cool. And then I keep doing it, and I keep doing it, keep doing it, and then, damn, I'm toxic as hell. I'm realizing in real time. Okay, well, okay. I'm so happy that I did this in this series on camera and video, because now I can just take it back and say it's all for comedic purposes. This is all for entertainment reasons only. I've never ever said anything funny in my life. I'm actually pretty boring for the most part. I mean, I read. That's boring. But yeah. I mean, obviously, as I said, I even though I'm saying things, this is a lot of, this is quite therapeutic to me. I actually think most people, I actually think everyone, to be fair, can benefit from not even talking to other people, from talking in general. Because once you start talking, you start articulating things, you start thinking about things differently. You start to realize how dumb you sound when you're saying stuff. It's like, oh man, I can't work without listening to music. And then I put on a song tomorrow and I'm just dancing around my room, wait, turn the club up, and then not getting any work done. Like, you sound like an idiot when you start talking to yourself, because you can't lie to yourself. Like, this, it's therapeutic to me, and I'm learning more about myself, I guess, every minute of this video that goes by, which is of course for comedic purposes only. I'm not a toxic male by no means, but yeah, it's interesting for sure. I talked about that. I talked about not crying and wearing a mask. The final thing, I guess, which isn't actually toxic intrinsically, but it can lead to negative outcomes, I guess, is the whole, maybe, okay, a better way to tackle it, I was going to say that the boys will be boys mentality, but more importantly, I think it's the whole play, the whole play thing. I don't know how to word it right, but like, we kind of need our playtime. Like, you look at school, maybe I'm still young, so maybe my perspective this is wrong, but when you look at school, and you're given lunch break, you're given like regular break, after school you have this football club or basketball club. There's always the opportunity to be active, to play, to let out all that excess energy, to kind of allow your brain to switch from, like, if you're always playing GTA, you're kind of in this like, run people over kind of mindset. You kind of need some time to like let your brain settle down. All that abstract kind of nonsense, you kind of need to get that out of you. And I think playtime, I think that's very, very important. And I think it's more important in men than, that's not to say that's not important for girls as well and for women. I think it's also important for all human beings. I think we are creatures of play fundamentally, but I've never seen it so vividly in myself and in other guys, where it's like, if you sit down for too long, you just get like very aggy. What's the word for it? You get very like agitated. Aggy's kind of short for agitated actually, isn't it? But it's like you get kind of stressed. And I think I noticed that vividly in school, in sixth form more specifically, where they said, okay, you're 17, 18 years old now, you can't use the playground. The playground's for the lower school years. If you want to play, go to the study room and study. That's kind of like what adult play is reading books. And that really got to me. I really got to a lot of my friends, where we just kind of got so agitated because we just can't let off all that steam, all that excess energy. Interestingly, that is where you see the correlation between men and ADHD. Boys are like, is it 5 times more likely to be misdiagnosed with ADHD because we're perceived as like rowdy and energetic. I'm trying to quote Joyner Lucas' song now, but I can't remember the lyrics. You guys know what I'm talking about. But the whole ADHD thing, or that ADD thing, it's like, I was never diagnosed with it, but I've been told I've got ADHD traits, where like I'm on the ADHD spectrum by a friend who's done like the relevant training. I've never gone to a counsellor about it. I probably should get some sort of test. It will be useful to have extra time in my exams, at least at bare minimum. But it's like the whole idea of being energetic and playful is something that, like, you can't take that away. You can't take that. I don't want to say this I'm trying to stay on brand. On brand. But I think it's interesting for sure. The whole boys got to play kind of mentality. I'm not talking about with in terms of like predatory rape behavior, none of that nonsense. I'm talking about any playful in the club, moving to girls. I'm not talking about that sort of playful that I kind of referred to earlier, but I'm literally just mean like literal play, literal like football or running around or climbing a climbing frame or anything that involves physical interaction with stuff. But I don't know, I do think it's interesting. I don't actually know what I want to say on that topic. I haven't really got a well articulated opinion on it, other than the fact that I think it's important. And I notice in myself that the more I sit down, even right now, my back is starting to get stiff. I've had to change the setup. I've changed jumper. Like I had to get up and do something throughout the course of this video. And it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's important. I want to hear what guys have to say about that. I haven't really got an educated take on it. It's just something I noticed in myself. Again, I don't think it's intrinsically toxic, but I do think it can lead to toxic outcomes if we're not allowed to pursue, or we're not allowed to release the energy. That's where the whole boys will be boys chat comes from, because it's like, oh, they're just playing around, they're just boys. That is when it becomes toxic, because you kind of allow people to do things that they shouldn't be doing on the premise that they're boys and they will be boys, whatever the hell that means. I kind of talked about it in a similar vein of talk in the end of the football video. I'm talking about lad behaviour, which I kind of touched on it based on William Saliba and the whole like gay homosexual conversation that was around that. But lad culture transcends that in infinite number of ways. You see some of these like rugby club initiation parties where it's like you got to piss in a bucket and drink it, or you got to run around town naked. All these are really some of them are funny. Again, I think this is something that's interesting as well, because I'm saying that I don't think I've ever done anything maliciously. It's all just because I'm an idiot. And I equally think some of these things, well, most of the things these guys do, they do it because they think it's funny. They're not like, oh, drink piss so you can have a bad hygiene or something, a hygienic reaction or something like that. They're not trying to hurt other people. They do perceive it as funny. I hope I perceive it as funny. Some of the things people do, like running around town naked, I think it's dumb, but I understand the humor of it. But again, like, it becomes toxic when you allow that to pass based on the premise again that boys will be boys. Because even in saying that, it's not like all boys are the same. There are several guys and girls and people out there that just don't find that funny, and even beyond the humor of it, they don't even find it acceptable. They think that's offensive. I touched on like other cultures briefly in the football video as well, on my opinion corner, on my opinion on football. And it's like there's certain cultures like where showing skin is perceived as a bad thing. You don't want to be running around town naked, not for a joke, not for anything, because it's perceived as a negative thing, as your body's sacred. You don't want to be drinking piss out of a bucket. I mean, to be fair, I don't understand why people do that anyway. But some of these things, this lad culture, this boys will be boys mentality is very, very, again, it's not intrinsically toxic, but there are very toxic, potentially toxic outcomes if it's not treated properly, if it's not observed in an environment that is nurturing of everyone within it, instead of just like the top dogs that have the most power. That's something that kind of deterred me from joining like teams at university. It deterred me from joining anything that is deemed as like even slightly what we call like political, where you have like the obvious leaders and they kind of like just use nepotism, like, oh, you're my friend, you can be treasurer, you're my friend, you can be secretary. So I don't want to get involved in a society, in a group, in a environment where I have less power than you because you say so, and I've got to do these certain things to be accepted that I don't want to do. It's like, I understand difficulties if you're from a certain culture, or even if you're just a certain person, even if you're not, if you could be like atheist, but you just don't want to drink piss out of a bucket. I understand why you don't want to drink piss out of a bucket. I understand why you might not take part in that football team party or whatever, or that rugby team, or American football, hockey, whatever it may be, because all these guys are telling you to drink piss. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to take part. And I get it. And again, I want to reiterate that I don't think it's fundamentally toxic, but I do think it has potentially toxic outcomes if it's not taken care of properly. And if men, because at the end of the day, all this comes down to men. It's not, there's no one else can deal with this issue apart from the guys that are exuding it. And it's like, you need to look at that and be like, you know what? I think it's funny. Yes, we have these traditional things, like it's tradition to have an initiation party, but I understand that certain people aren't okay with that. So we're gonna do things differently this year. We're still gonna make it as equally as crazy, just maybe not in that way. Maybe you can put milk and water and sugar in a cup and drink that instead. I don't know, but that's just me. I think those are the three things, I guess, off the top of my head, that I recognise myself, that I think are synonymous with like ideas of toxic masculinity. The whole like playtime, boys will be boys thing, and the other two things that I said I can't remember because I've just been waffling this whole time. Not crying and wearing, did I say wearing a mask or something? I can't remember. Just you know what it is. Rewind that thing. I think closing off, not just this video but also potentially the series as well. I think what I want to briefly reflect on myself is like, what that means for me in the current day, and what I'm working towards in the future. Because it doesn't, it's all going to well to notice these things and see all these problems and have all these opinions and takes. But like, what does that really mean? I think fundamentally, even if you look at all the other opinion corner videos, I've talked about Black Lives Matter protests, I've talked about hip hop culture, I've talked about football, and now I'm talking about toxic masculinity. You can actually, surprisingly, you can see similarities between all four of these things. Well, it's not, I guess not too surprising that football, hip hop, and is two very male-dominated industries. But it's like, again, what does that mean for me? I think what's important is more so than self-reflection and self-awareness, like all these like buzzwords I can throw at you. It's more about just think, just look and think. You can't. It's no longer acceptable to just do things on the premise of I'm doing it for doing its sake. Like, now it's way more important to actually think about what you're doing and to understand the effects that has on other people. Again, I haven't said this before, but I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. You can do what you want at the end of the day. I have no divine right over you, the same way as no one else has any divine right over me. The only constant is that we're living our own lives. But it's, I beg, I beg you, at least try and think about what you do before you do it and how that affects other people and the people around you. Because when it comes to football, again, it creates toxic environments. When it comes to hip hop, it leads to premature deaths, ridiculous homicide rates, ridiculous drug overdose issues. When it comes to racism and segregation and discrimination and racial tensions, it literally leads to guys being murdered by police who are supposed to protect us. It leads to suicides, leads to mental health issues, PTSD, so many things going on that doesn't just... By the way, obviously this video is more about toxic masculinity, but this affects everyone. This is a human issue. It's not just a male issue. Even though I'm only talking on my behalf, this is my opinion corner again, but it's a global issue. It's a big thing people need to think more about, and the only way we can fix it is by fixing it, right? You can't just let it go. You can't just say it's the next generation's problem. It's like we all have a part to play. We're all accountable for our own actions, and fundamentally, if you fix yourself, if everyone fixed themselves, then everyone will be fine. There's no need to fix someone else. There's no need to focus on that or this or him or her. Just everyone, just do you. Just do, look inside yourself, think about what you've done, what might be wrong. Go by the premise that I mentioned earlier with the pattern recognition. Recognize the patterns. Is he okay with what I'm saying? If he's not, let me talk to him and be like, what have I done wrong? How can I fix this? Is she happy with the way I treated her in that environment? Yes or no. If not, talk to her, find out what you did wrong. How can you fix your actions? Don't ask for forgiveness. Guys don't have to forgive you. You can apologize. Apologizing is recognizing that you made a mistake. It's not them allowing you and forgiving you and being friends afterwards. Someone can just say, no, like, I appreciate your apology, but I'm still not going to F with you. It's all about growth. It's all about growth. And fundamentally, I can go on all day about this. I'm not going to. Maybe I'll start a new podcast. But it's all about growth. It's all about recognizing your issues. And again, I want to drill this in. Think about what you do and understand the impact it has on others. And then from there, we can grow and, live in... utopia is not real, prosperity isn't real, but at least it'll be better than the madness we have right now. At least it'll probably be allowed outside. If everyone's checking themselves and be like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't go outside today. Maybe then COVID will be a bit better and then we'll, live in a better time. And yeah, that's kind of it. So hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the entire series so far, potentially ever. If you have enjoyed, let me know down below in the comments. Pull up a corner somewhere and let's get chatting. As always, my Instagram DMs are open, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, any platform you find me on, all the links down below in the description. You can click any of that, find me anywhere, chat, whatever. Don't cancel me. Well, do what you want. I have no divine right over you, you have no divine right over me. Do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I do, you do what you do. Just think about it and understand how that affects people around you. But with all that said, enjoy whatever you were doing beforehand, and yeah, buy the merch.